One of the big prizes at the Oscars is always the Best Director Award, and this time Ang Lee beat Steven Spielberg to it, winning for his film Life of Pi. If you know the book, you'd be forgiven for wondering how its dreamlike world would ever work on film, but the Taiwanese-born director pulled it off. He has certainly made Taiwan proud, and we'll be talking to Taiwan's culture minister about that in just a moment. But there is also a more tangible connection in that Life of Pi was largely financed by and made in Taiwan. Our Taipei correspondent Cindy Su explains.
Mr. Lee was born and raised in Taiwan. He got his film career started in Taiwan, making Chinese language films. But what has also made this film really popular in Taiwan and got many people waiting anxiously today for the Oscar awards to be announced is that 80% of the film was made here. Now, Mr. Lee got a lot of help from the Taiwanese government in making this film. One local city turned over an old airport to Mr. Lee so that he could build a wave tank, which was used to make the storm scenes in the movie. The government also agreed to subsidize 30% of the cost of labor, hiring local labor to make the film. Now, Mr. Lee has said he could not have made this film without Taiwan's help. In fact, he found everything he needed in Taiwan, from beaches that look like they came from Mexico, to props, to people. Many of the 3,000 people who worked on this film with Mr. Lee are Taiwanese. And it is hoped that Mr. Lee winning this award will be a source of inspiration, not only for young Taiwanese directors who work with him and gain experience from him, but for the Asian film industry as a whole, and that this will help the Asian film industry reach new heights.
That's Cindy Su with the story of Life of Pi's Taiwan connection. And with me in the studio is龍應台, who is the Taiwanese culture minister and also a well-known author before she joined the Taiwanese government. You must be feeling delighted today with the news from the Oscars.
What a surprise to hear the news today. So it's just wonderful. I saw the film twice myself.
And how difficult was it to actually make sure that it was largely made in Taiwan and also financed in Taiwan?
It's 90% shot in Taiwan. He and his team spent something like more than 400 days working in Taiwan. It's not totally financed by Taiwan, but we contributed a little bit of it in terms of financial assistance there. But mostly, we provided everything we could in terms of assistance, in terms of a locale, and especially with some of the very special effects.
Yes, which are really showcased in this particular film. Now, why did you as a government do that? Is it because you see it as some kind of tool for promoting the skills in Taiwan or promoting it as a location for films?
Well, I think our cities are like many cities in the world, like New York City as well. We open our arms and welcome good directors to shoot their film in Taiwan. But this time with Life of Pi, Ang Lee takes a lot of initiative from his side. He's a real native son, because he sees that this time he's going to mobilize a lot of new technology in cinema making. And he really thinks that if he would shoot this film in Taiwan, it's probably going to help with a lot of the aspects of the industry as well. So he could have made this film somewhere else, but he decided he wanted to do it in Taiwan.
And he's given credit to Taiwan for what it did to make this possible. But I just wonder, overall, your job is about promoting Taiwanese culture around the world. So explain what is distinctive about Taiwanese culture, what makes it different from mainland Chinese culture?
First of all, it is a free place. And this type of freedom gives rise to a real, thoroughly truthful, authentic civil society, which Taiwan is probably the only one in Greater China. That makes it very special. And because luckily Taiwan did not go through the huge political upheavals in the past 60 years that China unfortunately did. And therefore, the good part of the traditional Chinese culture is really better preserved in Taiwan.
But it had its upheaval, didn't it, around the time that Taiwan was founded amid the exodus from China when the communists were taking over. You, before you came to the government, were well known as the writer of a book that has sold 500,000 copies and that is banned in China. You wrote about your own family's experiences from 1949 onwards.
Right. It's a book from the loser's side, looking at the Civil War and linking the family history with national history.
Why was that important to you, to rekindle the memories, to make sure people didn't forget?
It's like paying respect to the whole generation, to the Chinese who died in the Civil War. That's something like 30 million Chinese. And these Chinese, they actually across the strait. They are not only Taiwanese, they are not only Chinese, but it really is a huge suffering in the Chinese-speaking world. And time goes so fast, it's like a feeling that you never had the chance to really say goodbye to your parents. And this feeling, you get this, I think Ang Lee, through his film, is doing the same thing.
Because Ang Lee actually has a similar family history to yours, doesn't he?
Exactly.
His parents also fled the communists in China.
Very similar. Actually, Ang Lee talked with me about Life of Pi and his previous film as well. And specifically in Life of Pi, he mentioned that moment when the tiger walked away on the beach at the very end. This kind of saying goodbye, and you didn't have the chance to properly say thank you or I love you. And this is the kind of loss that's expressed in my own book as well.
So it's unfinished business, you think, then, Taiwan's relationship with China?
It's unfinished. We're still trying to work out a lot of problems we have.
Well, you know the way that obviously the Chinese want the story to end. I mean, Xi Jinping has made it clear even now that peaceful reunification is one of his big aims as he takes power. Do you then feel that Taiwanese culture is under threat?
When you live right across to a power that's so huge, you always feel a sense of insecurity. And all the more it is important for us to make the other party understand us the best, because the more they understand you, then the less insecure you are. And that means that through the means of culture, it's probably the most important means to reach peace. When in Beijing, the word unification is talked about, in Taiwan, we will be more thinking about, well, what kind of lifestyle are we really trying to secure for ourselves?
But then if you say that culture is part of the relationship, then the success of Taiwanese pop, Taiwanese soap operas in the mainland, even if some of them are watched under the radar, all of that is important. Is that your sort of soft power access into China?
You know, in the Chinese KTVs, where you pick songs to sing along, the statistics show that every 10 songs which are being picked to be sung, 7 of them are written by Taiwanese songwriters. And songs carry messages, and songs get across values as well. And this is probably the best means to bridge the misunderstanding between the two. And I would think, well, I don't even trust the shaking hands of politicians. Even if when treaties are signed, but there is no real, authentic mutual trust between the people on both sides, then treaties could be torn up as well.
Long Ying Tai, perhaps another time we can talk about your journey from novelist into the heart of the Taiwanese government. But thank you so much for joining us on the programme, especially on what has been such a good day for Taiwan.
Thank you so much.
You're watching Impact from the BBC. Do stay with us.